thing working? It's working. How are y'all doing? So we have an amazing panel today. I just want to first say thank you to Laurel and Jose and team for putting on this conference, because it's been a really amazing experience. I've learned a lot, and I'm really excited to bring these folks together for this discussion. Self-described futurist, so talking about the future of blockchain gets me really excited. I'm going to take the seat here. So I'm joined by some amazing people on this panel, but real quick, I'll tell you about myself. So my name is Caleb Boyce. I work for Dapper Labs, and I'm currently running a $1.2 million Black Creator Fund. It's a grant program for 23 Black-led and Black-owned projects, launching dApps on the Flow blockchain. And been at Dapper for almost a year now, and I'm very excited. I had the pleasure of working with Lane, as well as Diego, and it's been amazing. So I'm really excited to talk about blockchain. And actually, when I first started talking with Laurel and Jose about this, we were talking about, they were explaining what equity crowdfunding was to me, because I didn't know what it was. And I was like, that sounds like DAOs. And DAOs is a very important, interesting concept in blockchain. So I'm really excited to kind of tie that in together. But first, I want to introduce the people we have on the panel. All right, so I'll start with Lane. Lane LaFrance. She is co-founder of CryptoKitties, which is a game, one of the most successful games on the blockchain, one of the first ones, and actually broke Ethereum. And she's going to tell more about that. So I'm really excited to have her here. She also built the Flow blockchain, which is the blockchain at Dapper Labs. So I helped build that. The next person is Maria. She doesn't look like Jeff, but she works with Jeff. Jeff wasn't able to make it today, but Maria is an amazing VC and also a founder, I think, too. Yeah, so I'm very excited to have her here, especially for the perspective from a venture capital perspective as well. Next is Diego, who's one of my favorite people. I'm being genuine about that. He's a really good friend and somebody I've been working with for past year or so, and absolute stellar strategist and researcher, and I'm really excited to hear his opinions on what's happening next in the industry. He's done a lot of research on this stuff, so I'm really excited. And then we also have Lennox, who I met recently, who's a trader, and actually spoke on stage at NFT San Francisco and organized NFT Seattle. And so, and has a really interesting background from a developer perspective as well as like a trading perspective. So I'm very excited for his opinions too. And then last but certainly not least, an actual rock star. Not like just saying an actual rock star, DJ Scott Keeney. Very excited to have him here. He's an expert, I think, as much as anybody could be on the metaverse, and is doing amazing, really interesting, innovative things with music and entertainment, as well as the business of blockchain. So I'm really excited to have this panel. So thank you guys for coming.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So let's start with Lane. I wonder if you could tell us a little about NFTs for those who don't know, and kind of how you got around with CryptoKitties, because that was a pretty interesting and impactful development.
Yeah, let's do it. We're going back to 2017. Thanks so much for the intro, Caleb, and for being here, everybody. This is going to be a lot of fun, and for all of you being here. So back in 2017, there were a couple projects that were sort of digitally art-oriented, but mostly the space was in the mindset of ICOs. So prior to that, 2013, Bitcoin comes out, and we're like, oh, payments are really cool. Ethereum adds smart contracts, and that's a game changer, but people are mostly using those smart contracts to issue fungible tokens under the guise of like creating new projects and fundraising for those projects. It was sort of iteration one of crowdfunding. And so CryptoKitties came to be when we were like, people need to understand that these are digital assets and they're objects. It's not just currency. Objects and items and things that you see and care about that represent something in your real life can also be represented digitally and have value and have scarcity and be things that people want to hold for a really long time. And so that became non-fungible tokens. Non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are the digital objects. They're the items that are unique that you look at and you're like, that one's mine, and I want that exact one. And that's not true of currency. As long as you have a currency, you don't really care which one it is.
Fungibility versus non-fungibility.
Yeah, exactly. And so CryptoKitties was the first official example of non-fungible tokens, the ERC 721 standard, which is still what we use today for all of the NFT projects that are on Ethereum and Flow and other blockchains. And I don't know how deep you want me to go right now, but I can keep going if you like.
I think it's really important. Just want to reiterate that ERC 721 was the first standard. So ERCs are standards for Ethereum ecosystem, and you guys were the first one to write it for Ethereum for NFTs. And so that was really the beginning, or the definition of that. And I think one thing you were saying earlier is that created that standard actually created the ability for a lot of people to develop on it and do a lot of creative things with it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we can jump to Maria. So, yeah, I was looking at your bio, which is really great to meet you. I'm a huge music fan and also an amateur DJ, nothing like DJ Ski, but an amateur DJ, and really passionate about music. And through this grant program, we had a number of people that applied who were musicians and were interested in monetizing their audience with NFTs. And so your background in music as well as in venture is really interesting. So please share us. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I should go back through my background to really understand why I got into music in the first place. So I grew up in a family of fourth generation classical musicians, sculptors, creators, just creative environments. And I was a singer growing up myself, but I ended up wanting to be the backbone of everyone's wishbone. So I actually went to school for investment management and finance. I got the founder itch. I started a record label by the time I was 19. I ended up working for the Grammys, and then I was at Capitol Music Group in Hollywood, where I was working on projects with Paul McCartney, Katy Perry, and then just really looking at everyone's P&Ls all the time.
Wow.
But while I was at Capitol Music Group, I really got into the royalty exchange, and I was really frustrated because I could invest less than $30K in an artist that I really wanted to put in money in. And so I started looking at ways to kind of revolutionize that, and I started talking to lawyers, and I was like, how do we make this happen? And I came across something called The Song That Owns Itself. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it's essentially a project that I've been working with that's built on Algorand, and so it's a way for artists to fractionalize song ownership, which has been kind of a passion project of mine, besides being in this venture space in this crazy crypto world. But that's kind of a little bit about my background.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's really cool and awesome that you have that background and you decided to go in the finance side of it because it's a really important part. And then I definitely got to connect with the guy from Song Piece who was on just a minute ago about what he's doing with fractionalizing music. So that's a really cool space. Thank you. Diego, jump to you. What can you say about Diego, other than the fact that you just came back from Lisbon?
Yeah, we just returned from Lisbon, where Solana was hosting our conference, Breakpoint. It was amazing to see the energy of the community. Even though we are in this market right now that's very challenging and everything is happening this past week, people coming together and really excited to build, not just on Solana, but around our conference. There are other chains in the ecosystem hosting the events. So the energy is just amazing. It was exactly what I was looking for when I came into this space. You know, I spent my career working in management consulting, investment banking in traditional industries. And when I saw the opportunity or what blockchain can offer, to create more economic prosperity around the world and onboard more people into a new system that can create opportunities for everyone to prosper together, that's exactly what I was expecting at this conference. And just seeing how the community can come together and stay strong at this time is just incredible.
Amazing, amazing. I want to take a second to mention, some of you may be familiar, but there's some turmoil going on in the industry with blockchain around FTX, and I don't want to go too much into it because the news is covering it a lot, but it is an interesting aspect of the space, and I think that one thing we're demonstrating with this panel and the people who are working, all different aspects of the blockchain industry is that there's a lot of opportunities still, and there's a lot of growth and innovation, and it's really exciting. So I didn't want to not mention it, but I also don't want to cover it too much. So, but I'm really excited. Especially because I've been hearing a lot about Solana, and I'm really excited about Solana and what they have to offer. So it's really cool. And then Lennox. You want to talk about Satoshi's Index?
Yeah.
And your background?
Yeah, so my background's in software engineering, as well as just traditional day trading. Got into Ethereum in 2017 and started building trading algorithms, built machine learning models that essentially arbitrage different cryptocurrencies. So that's my background. And Q 2021, when the hype of NFTs kind of hit the market, there was a lot of PFP projects, and something that I was super excited about was the underlying tech and what you could do with it. So built up this team where we wanted to push the bounds of what utility you can actually unlock on day one with an NFT. So that's how Satoshi's Index came in, which really is it's a token-gated SaaS platform that unlocks an automated investment, like automated portfolio management tool. So the NFT itself actually like gatekeeps access into the platform. And the platform, think of it like a 401k for crypto. We had a lot of people in our community that were looking for like a set it and forget it way of getting into the crypto markets. And there's not a ton of index funds out there. The few that are for crypto, the few that are available either have really high expense ratios or are close to outside investment. So what we ended up doing was creating an algorithm that simulates an index fund. So it buys the top 10 cryptocurrencies by trading volume. It's a dynamic index. And we termed it Satoshi's index because, Satoshi. So we
The founder of the
you know,
Bitcoin white paper writer, yeah.
for those that might not know. And we paired it with these cute, adorable 3D avatars, our representation of Satoshi. So yeah, it's been really cool to kind of build out that. The Genesis launch was a lifetime license that gives you access to the platform. And we're actually doing a second launch now to pivot to a subscription model. So yeah, just a way of democratizing, successful and non-sketchy crypto investing for people that don't have the time, the energy, or desire to really spend all day figuring out what should I be invested in the crypto markets. So
I love that.
Yeah.
The differentiator that really stuck out for me was that you run it by trading volume, which is different than market capitalization. So you want to explain that? Yeah.
So we leveraged Binance, so the world's largest exchange, built a data model, and went back to the inception of their Bitcoin offering. So when they first started offering crypto, up until I think spring of this year when we last ran that model, we found that if you were to buy $100 of Bitcoin every month from that date, your returns as of the date we ran the model would have been roughly 640 something percent. So all you're doing is socking away $100 a month in just Bitcoin. Now, if you were going to do the exact same thing, but instead of just focusing on a single asset, in this case Bitcoin, instead of doing that, you diversified across the top 10 by trading volume, your returns doubled in the same time horizon.
Oh,
so same exact thing, but instead of focusing on a single instrument, you diversified yourself and started getting exposure to lesser known coins. When I say lesser known, I'm talking about lesser known than Bitcoin and Ethereum. So you're getting exposure to Cardano, Solana, Avalanche, and all these other great ecosystems. So your returns literally doubled. So what we ended up doing was we took that and just like turned it into a product. And to your question, trading volume, we found that it has a predictive element to it versus market cap, where market cap is it's already happened. This is who has this market share. So you can act on that information, but there's not a ton of alpha or signal there. Versus trading volume, it's a momentum strategy, which is telling you what the broader market is purchasing. So we just basically took all that and roped it into a product that is set it and forget it for someone that wants exposure to the crypto markets.
Super dope, man. I love that. That's really cool. And I'm definitely signing up.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so you guys may be familiar with the metaverse. I know I am. I'm really excited about it. But there's only one person I think on the stage that can say they've written a book on the metaverse, and that's DJ Ski right here. So you want to talk to us about, your background and then how you got into the metaverse.
It's interesting, right? Like, if you would have told me years ago that my first book would be on the metaverse, right? Like, I would have thought you were crazy, especially given my background. Coming up, like, obviously, DJ is my foundation. I started off when I was a teenager in Minneapolis, but I was always, like, at the intersection of tech, right? Like, I got my big break when I was 16 years old and sent a letter to the CEO of Loud and Sony Records on what he was doing wrong with his label, and this is because Napster and the internet were disrupting the industry. He loved it so much, he offered me a job, so literally grabbed a U-Haul, never been to LA, drove across the country, and it worked out, right? Like, we signed Akon together, had an incredible run, was able to
Signed Akon?
Yeah, that was our first artist. So, had a great run, like, really focused on the industry side of things, but was always, like, looking early on tech as a DJ, right? Like, I made a name for breaking a lot of these artists first, but also, like, was one of the first to launch, like, a daily, I think the first daily music vlog, right? Called Ski TV, where I was like, hey, I knew this thing called YouTube was coming, or was here, and, like, it was going to disrupt content, and I was like, let's put up short-form content every single day. Me as a DJ, I'm touring the world, I'm interviewing different artists every day, I'm going to different events, so I was actually in the perfect position to create, like, a series like that, and we ended up turning that into a TV show and generating like, I think 3 billion views, changing all these like the way music videos were there. And then for me, I was on TV, was on radio at Sirius XM and iHeart for 10 years, and just saw those industries changing and didn't want to get caught in like the dark ages. I was actually speaking to a group of kids in high school, and they're like, oh, you're on the radio and TV? Like, nobody watches that. I was like, all right, I've got to go do the next thing. And I kind of already had those doubts, but kids have no filter, so they put it in. So I launched Dash, being like a next generation content company, seeing that kids were spending so much time on gaming platforms and really like communicating and connecting there. And so for me then, like we launched our first product was streaming radio and like live audio basically and empowering communities with that. Fast forward, a couple years, and this is about 3 years ago, it was actually my niece, right? Like I saw her spending so much time on this platform called Roblox. And it had a tremendous amount of users for, at the time, I think it was like 30 or 40 million users already, but nobody mainstream was talking about it. And me, like I'd always played games and was deep in the gaming scene. I didn't get it because the graphics, like I was like, this looks like worse than when I was playing like PS2 as a kid. Like, what is it about it? But I was like, I'm obviously like missing. There's a lot of people that aren't there. So I paid her $100 to follow her, and she didn't actually want it in cash. She wanted it in Robux currency. The virtual currency to her was more important than physical cash.
Wow.
So that taught me something. But when I followed her, I was like, all right, she's really going here not just to game. She's going because this is where her friends are and this is where they hang out. The same way I used to grow up and we'd go to the mall to hang out. And we'd go store to store, but I wasn't really there to shop. They'd go game to game in Roblox, but they were really there more to hang out and interact with each other. So seeing that opportunity and knowing the access to talent that we had and understanding like how to create IRL events, I thought that the metaverse and kind of what was happening right here, there was this tremendous opportunity to bring brands and IP and talent holders into that. And I realized the value of like, hey, what you're wearing and the reason that kids are spending so much money on this virtual currency is so important in these digital worlds, right? So we believe that bringing IP into them and selling these virtual goods was going to be a major thing. So actually the first person, that really bid on, and, I was just kind of candidly talking about my ideas at her house a couple years ago was Paris Hilton. And I brought up like, hey, here's what we're doing. Like, she's like, oh, it sounds interesting. Metaverse is awesome. I'm like, yeah, like, she's like, I should do so. Like, she's always been super forward thinking. She's like, I've heard it. Like, I want to get into this. She's like, should I do something in Fortnite? I was like, well, probably not for your brand, right? But Roblox might work. It's younger, but it's more female, and I think it could work. She's like, what's Roblox? So gave her the whole rundown, and her husband's incredible, Carter. We're partners in another project there, and he's like looking up the demo. He's like, how have I not heard of this? Like, this has like tens of millions. Like, yes, let's go. So we just like kudos to her for being like the first real big like celebrity at the time to jump in at a time when people weren't doing that, and now she's become literally the queen of the metaverse, right? Like she had her summit earlier this morning.
Oh wow.
Yeah, exactly. She's she wrote the foreword on my book. She is the biggest like persistent celebrity metaverse in terms of like population that we built for her on that. And we've also gone on to build and bring all these different brands into the metaverse, ranging from other talent, but as well as like events and festivals like Coachella's Neon Carnival that Levi's came in and sponsored. We did in Roblox. We've done so many things over the years, from Art Basel Soho House last year to we have several projects coming up in the next month that are really exciting. But what really boils down to me is I really am excited about the ability to scale events. And one thing that Paris always says is that, look, there's one of her, and when she's the top paid female DJ in the world, and she like also has done a lot. Like, she doesn't want to travel every day. Like, it's a grind, right? Like doing those things, staying up at night. She's like, when we launched our Roblox world, we launched it on New Year's Eve. She was sitting in the Maldives, right? Like playing in her hotel room, and she's like, oh my God, and she was like, this is actually more fun than the real world. Like watching these outfits and watching these kids there. And I know when she said that, and remember, she has like better access than any of us ever, right? Like she's VIP everywhere. So when she goes to an event, she gets the best thing of it. And she's saying that she had more fun in a digital environment with that game. I was like, all right, if she's converted, like this is definitely the future. But it's just the opportunity to even scale events like this, right? Like there'll never be a replacement for IRL and physical things, but there's certain people that aren't in LA that weren't able to make the trip. So, the metaverse gives you an interesting opportunity beyond just like videotaping something, but for you to come in, interact, talk, and not be bound by also like fire marshal capacities, gravity, and all these interesting things. So it's the ability to scale and create new elements and events that excite me.
That's really cool. I'm glad you shared that. It's like amazing to think about. Yeah, Paris on Roblox. It's like really wow. That's really cool. Awesome. Well. I think just want to start this conversation. We just kind of keep it casual, but I did want to kind of go through like takeaways and lessons from 2022. We're in Q4 now, and like wondering what insights you guys brought out from this year, and like what you learned like in the context of Web3. Obviously, the markets went down this year for the was on a pretty much a high about a year ago, and so that's I think actually a really interesting factor for the space and what that kind of allows for these types of like market ups and downs, because people always say kind of in Web3 it's like the bear market's for building, and it really kind of like filters out a lot of the hype and really kind of concentrates the people who are really building innovative things and have strong teams and are doing stuff. So I'll start with Diego. Kind of like, what's your takeaway from 2022? It's been a wild year.
Yeah, here we are. We're still building. It was interesting to see how things have evolved over the course of the year, all the excitement and hype. And when I was working at Dapper earlier this year, you see there's a lot of distraction in a bull market, right? Because it attracts a lot of speculators, people who are interested and are not very serious about it. And now it feels like going to the gym at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, there's no one there. Only the people who are really serious about it, right? So the quality of the interactions and the quality of the products that we're going to see coming out of this phase, I think it's going to be really exciting. The main takeaway for me from this year is that blockchain, Web3 is not just a new technology, it's a paradigm shift on how we bring people together. And it's not enough to just put it out there and share your code online. It's almost like a political campaign. You got to go around the world and hug people and take selfies and kiss babies and really get people excited about it, because that's what it takes to get this thing off the ground. And once there's enough momentum going, we can really grow and expand. So the main takeaway for me is that it's going to take a lot more effort than we expected to get blockchain off the ground. It's not that simple.
Yeah, I think I had a similar kind of realization. It's like I see the opportunity to see like conceptually how this can change everything, but then working with like these grantee projects and like really helping bring them to market, I was like, this is really difficult. So you think about a lot of different functions to really get something launched, and then even when you get the product right, going out and finding that community and get people to like it or to participate with it is really difficult. I mean, I was talking with Ski earlier about kind of just like hiding this onboarding process. So before, it's like, in order for anybody to participate in Web3 or like in blockchain-based experience, there has to almost be a wallet involved, and setting up a wallet is like notoriously difficult to do for people who are like relatively new to it. And so one thing that Dapper used with NBA Top Shot was like they were onboarding people. People had digital cryptocurrency wallets, didn't even understand that they had that. They just had their place in the app where they saw their NFT, their NBA Top Shot moments, and so they didn't realize it was blockchain based. And there's a lot of I think a trend that I'm seeing is that teams are starting to think about, well, how do we give people value in the context of a game they can understand? That's a very low lift, easy for them to kind of to adopt, and still have it be blockchain based. So like, how do we like mask the blockchain aspect of it in the sense that not making it a really difficult bar of entry? And so I think that's really interesting. In talking about just going out and getting people to convert, and talking with them about it, I think that makes a huge difference. And I think you mentioned paradigm shift as well, just how things are changing. And then Lane and I were talking about this earlier too. Did you want to share?
Oh yeah, it's coming. We started sort of talking about the history earlier. So for me, the takeaway of 2022 is that in 2017 we saw how ICOs could work, and that was really important. In 2020 we saw how DeFi could work. In 2021 we saw how NFTs were going to work. That was sort of their revival, even though CryptoKitties was prevalent in 2018, and now we're here in 2022, and it feels like all of the building blocks for a paradigm shift are here, because we have the objects and we have the currency, and there's we're starting to have far more evolved ideas around identity and reputation, because it's just seeing things happen in practice. That's a very difficult problem to solve in theory, but when you start making it personal and people are just showing up at events, you can bootstrap all kinds of stuff like that. And so for me, 2022 is marking definitely that it's a year for builders. For sure, bears are for builders. And this is not the first downturn that we've had. We've had crypto winter. We prepare for this. And so 2022 has definitely been a year to build. And it seems like a takeaway trending into next year is that 2023 really feels like the year that's poised, or 2024. We'll see how long this downturn lasts. Could be longer than it could be a while, right, buddy? But 2022 feels like a real consolidation. You know, like downturns are where the people who are really committed show up, and you know that the people who are still here are in it for the long haul, because we are excited about the paradigm of like systems where people are able to tap into standards or smart contracts that act as open APIs that are reliable for anybody. It's a paradigm where those network effects of successful projects are communities that more developers can tap into, and people can bolster each other's success and really make projects additive. And we were talking a lot backstage about how additive this entire ecosystem is, so maybe I'll pass the mic to you in a second. But the other thing is just like how deeply motivated communities are to be involved in this. You know, like definitely the energy is there that people are excited about this, but it is going to be really hard. And the only way people get through hard things is together. You know, if something sucks, it doesn't matter as long as there's another person that it's also sucking with. Like if we're standing next to each other in the pouring rain waiting for a cab, it's like, at least we have each other. And so just like giving people each other during this time, I think will be really important. And certainly I'm seeing like some of those bonds solidify in the community. So definitely we are poised for a paradigm shift. The pieces are in the right spot. The real builders are here. We have sort of a critical mass of people who really get it and have a couple failures under, you know, we've been through a couple downturns now, and we're poised to like take the best of what we learned in those bear markets and turn it around, I think.
Yeah. That's really cool. I wanted to ask you, so just coming off NFT Seattle, which is the first, I guess, Web3 conference for Seattle area, like what was that like, especially in this environment now, like with those people there? They excited?
Yeah, so I put on a conference about a month ago, NFT Seattle, like you said, the first large-scale Web3 conference in the region. And I mean, for anyone else that's been kind of in the circuit, you know, you're in LA, you're in Miami, you're in New York, there's stuff in Denver, and Austin. So there's events all over in the year of 2022. And we're in a bear market, we're in a crypto winter, but this consistent theme I kept seeing was people are showing up because, you know, we're in a builder's year, so people are just excited to be around like-minded individuals that are moving the space forward. It's kind of like in that gold rush where the people that are here now, they realize that this is not like, we're in this for real, and that was very much on display at NFT Seattle. Obviously, like with a city like Seattle, we're birthplace of Amazon, Microsoft, and a whole bunch of other innovative companies. So it was cool to see like a very diverse array of market participants, from like, you know, Fortune 500 executives to like degens on Twitter to like, you know, crazy blue chip artists. Like everyone was just in there excited to continue to just move the space forward, even in the midst of a crypto winter and a bear market. So that was fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really encouraging too. That's really cool. Congrats on that.
Yeah.
Maria, I wanted to go to you and see, like, you work with, I guess you represent the founders, yeah? Founder experience? So
Yeah.
can you tell me, like, what you're seeing, like, how people are feeling?
Yeah, I realized we touched on music, but not about chapter 1, so I should probably get into that. I'm head of founder experience at Chapter 1. We're an early stage crypto fund investing in products that make crypto more accessible and easy to use. But Chapter 1 is really cool because it's not built like a modern, it's built like a modern venture fund, meaning like we're not the traditional associate all the way to partner route. We have an investment team, but we really index highly on founder experience. So we have a head of talent, a head of community, a head of data, a head of research, and we essentially want to build the 4 seasons of a founder experience. We want to take you from 0 to 1, and we're building products and designing services to help you do that. But I think the biggest takeaway for us from 2022 was that as an investor, you have to be willing to ask the tough questions even in a bull run. Like you cannot be caught up in the hype, because I think a lot of crypto and venture especially is about like, oh, signal this, signal that, like FOMO about this deal, FOMO about this deal. But it's really, you have to still keep with the pace, but also like ask those tough questions and push the founders where they get uncomfortable to answer them, because a lot of them are just, they're building, but sometimes they don't really want to answer the question, how is this going to make money? And unfortunately,
That question.
they have to ask that. They kind of shy away from that, but you have to ask the tough questions even in a bull run, because it's important.
Love that, yeah. Yeah, even working with, like, coaching some of the grantees in the program. Actually, I'm thinking about it. I want to shout out Rares, Jerome and Hector and Ruel. They're one of the grantees in the program, and they're building a really cool product, but it's been an absolute pleasure working with them, because they're just like super sharp in like so many other areas. But yeah, and they are like, the product they have developing, Hype Drop L Club. It's for people who are bidding on, that's right. People who are going online to try to buy sneakers when they first drop, its ability for you to, if you do participate in that and you miss out, you take the L on that. You don't get the sneaker. There may be like 1,500 being released, and there's like tens of thousands of people trying to get it. If you don't get that, you can get an NFT that kind of represents that sneaker and be able to. That NFT can not only have like something to kind of take away, but it also affords you discounts in other retailers and other like engagement that you can have with the product. So really brilliant. But I was like just thinking about like a little tangent, how to do shout out. I'm really excited for those guys. Oh yeah, one more thing.
Yeah.
They won was it Fractionalization Platform of the Year here at ECW last night. So kudos to you guys.
Great.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So excited to work with you. So yes, so yeah, that I was asking that question a lot early on. I was like, well, how does this make money? Like, but how does this make money? And I got a few, we're pre-revenue, and I was like, I don't know what that means. But I was like, but I was trying to figure it out because it was being used a lot. But I think that's such a great question to really understand, and like that's such a part of like the environment that we're in right now. It's like, how does this actually work? Like, how does this actually provide value for your customers or for the market? So, okay, cool. And then I think so. We kind of covered 2022. Like, now let's go into the real topic of this conversation, which is like the future of blockchain. And I'm couldn't be more excited to have you guys in your opinions about this. So I'll start with DJ Ski, if you don't mind. Like, what do you see is coming next? I mean, you're working on a lot of the stuff that's coming next, so without revealing too much.
Yeah, no, I mean, what excites me so much, like we talked about the metaverse and how this gives us the opportunity to now scale events. Obviously, when you look at the core of the blockchain, it's, and I think you take away the speculation of it, and just touching on what everybody's touched on, right? Like, anybody that didn't see this coming in terms of like the downturn of the market, anytime something rises that high, it's inevitable to come down. Like, I was so nervous a year ago when we were seeing these high price points. I'm like, this just doesn't feel real. It happened too quickly. And it's like, again, it's a very clear correlation. You look at what's happened in history when new technology comes out. The internet was obviously going to revolutionize the world. Everybody thought you could buy a .com name and just be like, oh, like, great, this is it. And then it's not really building. And the same, like, and then like the .com burst happened, real stuff happened, and then look what came out of that, right?
Yeah.
The exact same thing is happening now. It's like, I'm actually shocked that more people aren't investing in this now, because like, this is the time that you should be. Like, when prices are like, listen to Warren Buffett, like, don't buy when everybody else is, buy when everybody, like.
Exactly.
Just people get caught up in psychological things for it. But what's so interesting to me about blockchain, right, like, is the not only like the decentralization of it, but how it really levels the playing field and adds, really, we were just talking about this, new layers of monetization to creators that don't take away other things, right? Like, it used to be in the music industry specifically, when streaming came out, it replaced MP3s, which replaced CDs, which replaced tapes, which replaced vinyl, right? So they were just like evolving. When we're looking at like things happening in blockchain, like, these are new revenue streams, whether it's, you're trying to, you could even sell and let your fans participate in those royalties, creating new metaverse experiences that people are buying into, or creating entirely new experiences through NFTs on the blockchain, right? That fans can invest, sell, like, it's almost like buying baseball cards for artists, right? Like, there was no way for you to invest, you're like, oh, this artist is going to be a star, other than like signing them, which is they're generally already signed, or like managing them. That didn't exist in music, and now you're starting to see those new layers. One of the best use cases, I think there's two really incredible use cases related to entertainment for music, though, and one is like ticketing, right? Like, you can see like fraud. Remember when people used to like
Scalp tickets?
Getting into scalp tickets, and you didn't know if you were like getting a great deal or walking in and going to be denied. So like, and then secondarily, you're able to, the original holder, you can see the whole purchase history of the ticket. You're able to, kind of, the original holder is now able to retain royalties each time it's resold, so they're participating and like benefiting if their concert is super hot. They're not like, oh great, this other guy made more than me on a ticket and I'm the one performing. And also for fans, they're able to show that they're there. And I think moving forward, which gets me to my second point, which is like provenance, right? The blockchain is the best.
So say it again, provenance?
Provenance, yeah. So like, the blockchain is the best certificate of authentication in the world, because right now, if you, like, I'm a big collector, right? So I buy all these like memorabilia and things, and it comes with like paper certificates. Awesome, but like, it's literally something that's printed out that like I could print out a certificate and say that Snoop Dogg wore this shirt and sell it, and like, you're still like have to believe in that. Versus in the blockchain, at least you can see the history, the provenance. It can be attached to different items for that. But also, like, I think that as we evolve, blockchain and wallets are going to be wildly important to explaining and describing who we are. In my Twitter bio, especially right now, right? Like, I could write whatever, spend $8, get it verified, and I could send a stock down. And I could put anything. I could put that I'm the president of the United States in there, and like they could ban me ultimately, but some people might believe me. On blockchain, again, like you can tell so much about people the same way. It's almost like I believe it will be, instead of having Twitter bios, we will be able to see wallet addresses. It'll show like movies you've gone to, tickets that, to events that you've been to, pieces of art that you've bought that shows so much about you that if you're doing research, whether it's you're meeting somebody, you're trying to date somebody, you want to see what they're about, like this is almost like your cultural credit report. Wow. And that's what's so interesting about this. And I think there's going to be so many use cases and so many new kind of opportunities built around that. That's one thing that really excites me right now and that we're diving deep into.
I love that. I'm really excited about that too. And even the application of identity management. So like, how do you identify yourself in the context of a lot of things like you said, but even in like civil services, like if you're, with your city, I think that's a big thing in the future as well. Is Estonia is like an example they're doing mostly digital identity, I think now for their citizens, and they've got all these services that you can then access like 24/7. So if you guys have ever gone and stood in line at the DMV office, had to take off work or whatever it is to go do that, the idea of having like identity management using the security of the blockchain could afford you to be able to do that 24/7 whenever you'd like online. And that's actually, it's not just, it's conceptually, it seems like really cool. It's not sci-fi, it's actually happening in a like well-established country in Estonia that they're using that. And so I think there's applications to that all over the place with identity management with blockchain. So it's really cool that you talk about that too, because it's a good way to, talk about, share who you are and what you're into, and it's like verified. It's like, cryptographically secure. Diego, what were you seeing in like at the conference this past week? It's like the biggest conference, I think, right?
Yeah, so for us, it was the biggest conference that we had. We had 4,000 people almost.
4,000?
At Breakpoint, 3 days, preceded by Hacker House. If you want to zoom in here, it's an event that we created this past year, created around the experience for developers. And basically, we take a space in different host cities around the world. We did 24 last year. And for 5 days, we just bring developers, creators together and have a program specifically designed for them, help them learn about building a blockchain, panels, office hours, help them put teams together, and next year is going to have more hackathons. What I'm seeing is, I think the key thing, in order to get to the future blockchain, we need to onboard more creators on blockchain, make it more accessible, make it easier for people to use it. Right now, it's not that easy, it's not that accessible. Even if you look around, several L1's ecosystem, the documentation is not even translated in other languages, such as Spanish and others. So we need to make it easier for them to come and make it engaging. I really like the idea of having conferences and getting people together in real life because it's a different energy, right?
Yeah.
And maintaining the momentum throughout the year across different ecosystems, but also more broadly in the industry with the conference that we have. So to me, that's what's really key, and just seeing how, how people are willing to help each other. As long as you put that the platform there for them to come together, is really unique.
That's cool. Yeah, I definitely feel an energy here as well. Even this conference, it's like really cool just to learn and meet people, and it's like I think I tried to get work done. I was like, I can't get work done right now. I got to talk to so many people. It's so cool. Like so many things to learn about, so many people to like meet, and it's really, you're right, that energy is there. So yeah, completely agree more. I think that like in the context of like kind of what's coming next, I think, did we cover everybody talking about the future? No. Linux, yes. Tell me what you see coming next in the future of blockchain.
Yeah, so for me, there's 3 different pillars that I get super excited about. One is more from a corporate standpoint. It's the application of blockchain technology in the loyalty space.
Loyalty?
Loyalty, and like
customer loyalty.
Customer loyalty.
Okay.
So really, just deepening an existing brand's connection with their audience, right? So that's something we're gonna. I'll dive into that a little bit more. Another thing I'm really excited about, and it's not necessarily blockchain, but it's in this umbrella of technologies that we call Web3, is AR and how it's going to interact with all this other stuff. It's kind of slept on right now because the hardware itself hasn't really caught up, but I think we're heading to a world where, the NFTs and all the stuff that's being powered by the blockchain tech is going to enable these I won't call it virtual, but this new world where the virtual and the real world overlap, and your affiliations in the digital world, whatever NFT communities you're a part of, whatever DAOs you're a part of, they're going to unlock different IRL experiences depending on where you're at. And I think the AR is going to be a key component of that. Like you walk down the street, if you're like a Bored Ape holder, maybe you see certain things that like your buddy next to you who doesn't have a Bored Ape like doesn't see. So stuff like that, that's going to get super exciting. But on the loyalty space, one of the hats that I wear, I've been in fintech at Starbucks corporate for a while, and I've been fortunate enough to be close to the Starbucks Odyssey, the NFT project that's launching pretty soon here. And with what they're doing, they're tapping into their existing 27.4 million loyalty rewards members, like people that already drank the Kool-Aid, they already believe in the brand, and they're taking Web3 technology, they're taking the blockchain tech and integrating it into an existing Starbucks experience, right? And what you described at the beginning, like with what Dapper did, where you see your collectibles and you don't really know that it's an NFT, but it's just one cohesive experience in your app. Starbucks is doing something similar. I know Reddit just did something similar where they've abstracted this complicated layer of like NFTs and wallets and all smart contracts, and just presented this user experience that allows the masses to engage with what we're calling Web3 technology without even knowing it. So the reason I brought up loyalty, it's like the lowest hanging fruit, because there's so many big brands out there that have really big like audiences already, and it's so easy for them to like just deepen their connection with their existing audiences by leveraging NFTs and using storytelling to just kind of really deepen that connection. So personally, I think that's the most exciting thing, because that is what's going to help us reach like mass scale, right? When you like get those people that don't even know that they're being onboarded into Web3, getting onboarded into Web3.
I'm excited about the product. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. I think when we were just talking about this, it was like in the future it kind of becomes a little less like aware of what. So nobody really cares when you go to pay for your coffee if it's a Stripe payment or Verifone or whatever. Nobody thinks about that anymore, and that's kind of like what we're going to is some of these back-end things that aren't important to the customer that we don't need to really highlight. So it's pretty exciting. I did want to take a few moments to talk about DAOs, because as I mentioned before, when I first spoke with Jose and Laurel, and they were kind of explaining, and Hector actually is the one who connected me from Rares, but they were talking about equity crowdfunding. I was like, that sounds a lot like DAOs, and DAOs are distributed autonomous organizations. So distributed autonomous organizations. So not like Dow Jones, DOW, but DAO, like the Dow. I think that's an Asian concept. So I want to talk about that, because I think that we have a lot of knowledge here on this stage about this kind of concept, and I think it really applies to this space. So, and I do want to encourage, we can just talk as a conversation. We don't have to go person by person. So feel free to jump in. I know I will. Yeah, Marie, you want to start us off? I think you've got some concept and experience in this, yeah?
So also +1 to what Diego said about product and design, that's a huge part of our thesis. We think the principles in Web 2 don't have to change for product for Web 3. They're not different, they're the same. And then I love the question for the future blockchain, but on the consumer side, we're kind of in this world of a collector's world, right? And in order to get mass adoption, like you mentioned, ticketing, I think that's going to be a huge use case of bringing more people in. Everybody loves going to concerts. They're not going to care whether it's an NFT or
I have ticket stubs from 20 years ago.
But that's an example of how we can bring more people on. So in terms of DAOs, so I was actually part of the first creator DAO that launched with Daniel Allen, the Overstimulated project.
The which project, sorry?
Sorry?
The which project, sorry? I didn't hear.
Daniel Allen. He's one of the top Web3 artists right now. Was on Forbes and worked really closely with him and Cooper Turley when that was rolling out. And I got into crypto. But what's interesting about DAOs is that it's this new model of fundraising, right? You are raising money and getting people on board who appreciate your art and who believe in you and have the same mission. Where I'm interested to see the DAO space evolve is what happens with utility. How do we crack the utility code? Because right now, it seems like it's mostly just membership and people in Discord saying just GM, which is cool, but
GM in the Web3 space is good morning.
Means good morning.
If you're cool, you say GM because you don't want to type all that. So you say, but
yeah. So it's okay, I'm part of this DAO, cool, but I'm part of several other ones, and they're in my Discord. But what's the value that I get as a fan for being part of your journey? And I think that's what I'm excited to see evolve, because right now I think it's mostly just membership, and of course there's royalties and all that, but the assumption in Web3 that everyone's like a collector is the same as saying that everyone in Web2 is a vinyl collector. Like, not everyone wakes up and wants to collect vinyl. So how do we build like the infrastructure for music where you don't even feel like you're in Web3, but you're in Web3, so like that my mom can be part of like the chain, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah, DAOs are cool. They've really revolutionized the space in terms of raising and again, being like a new revenue stream for artists, but I'm excited to see where it evolves past membership, so.
Yeah, I'm excited for DAOs too. I think that people, and you guys probably have an understanding of what NFTs are based on, profile picture art, like Bored Apes and CryptoPunks, and they're like, oh, so NFTs are done, right? Because we had, the year of 2021, and now they're like done. A lot of the valuations on some of these art pieces, like, bottomed out, and I think it's really interesting, kind of going back to the standard, understanding that NFTs aren't just that. Like, NFTs is a technology, it's just as groundbreaking and revolutionary and like widely applicable as even like blockchain, because you can use it for gating access. You can use it to signal verification of a certain participation or a club or whatever it is. Like, there's a non-fungible token is not just art. It is like a lot of value for artists and creators, and for creating digital scarcity essentially, or a scarcity for digital assets. But I think it's just so much more. And I think you were talking about you have tokens that you gate. That's how people get access to the platforms, by having it to NFT, and like that NFT goes in your wallet, and that wallet becomes a part of. It's like your own wallet. It's like I'm a card-carrying member of, name it, whatever it is, right? And it's like, well, that literally meant you had a card in your wallet that showed that you were part of that organization. Well, a digital wallet is the same thing, except it's an NFT, because there's not a card in there. It might look like a card, but it's actually an NFT, and that NFT is infinitely more secure and less copyable, like you say. It's not just a piece of paper. It's actually something that's cryptographically secured on the blockchain. So it's like a really exciting opportunity for that, but I'm taking up too much space. Anybody have any comments on NFTs? Or like, yeah.
Well, I think Lennox answered in a way the utility point for us, because it really is a totally new way for people to build out membership and loyalty. Like it's more than membership, but it's membership when people like really have a binding say, and when they can vote with value that can sort of be escrowed away. Like, they can stake value in caring about an idea or participating in that ecosystem without paying more for it. And so and I mean, you should definitely jump in more if you had other ideas about how you're imagining this evolving. But to me, it's like the utility really does come from just like totally cracking the collaborative community model. Like, this is a way for creative enterprise to be funded, facilitated, a sustainable business endeavor for the people who participate, both the creators and all the people who are part of like getting that work into the world. And it's an entirely new way for that process to unfold, and creators often didn't have, I mean, you could speak to this all, like there wasn't an avenue for distribution for them, and so the utility of like there being the distribution, there being people all over the world who have rights and privileges and access and say in what distribution of the music they care so much about means.
Yeah, I mean,
and there's definitely sorry, jump in.
Oh, no, I was going to say, like, for me as a DJ, right, like, I came up during a mixtape era. I got known for producing all these artists, and if you just, like, Googled me, right, like, it's first to play Kendrick Lamar, Post Malone, Gaga, like, all these incredible artists, and, well, that's awesome, right? Like, guess how much that made me? Right?
Exactly, yeah.
I guess how, like, they were signed, they had managers, that's not what I did. Like, if I would have loved to have been able to, like I talked about earlier, like, buy a baseball card, invest, that didn't exist. Now is there new ways to do it? Like, I believe somebody will crack that code for entertainment. And for entertainers, now it's like, all right, do I need to, because before you had to sign to a label, you had to do these things and like really sign away your rights, but that was the price that you paid for the fame. Like, can you do this and let your community self-fund you and almost like, raise, and by the way, when people put money into something, they're more encouraging, they're more engaged, and they're going to come to support your shows. And if you do good by them, they're going to do twice as good for you. So like, there's just so many new opportunities for that. And like, for me, I come up like, again, when like Napster was coming and these other things, music was basically free. Like, I never looked at music as making money. It was a marketing tool for me to build my brand and get to do everything else that I've done, right? And I used it for connections and everything else, but I always looked at music as a loss leader, and now that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. And even if the music, it's like now I could have like built a community and gotten, fans to contribute and be a part of that, right? And sharing my upside and success, so.
That's amazing. Yeah, think about like even using DAO tooling to drive to drive a character's like development. So Little Michaela is and virtual artist, the first virtual influencer. So she wasn't a real person. She's actually designed by a studio, and she had big brand deals from like Louis Vuitton and all these like other big brand deals. She was like a proper influencer, I think over 2 million followers on Instagram, and not a real person. And she wasn't like, faking like she was a real person. She would make like kind of coy comments about the fact that she's not real. Like, oh, she'd be holding a drink from a sponsor, and she'd be like, I wish I knew what this tastes like. And it was brilliant. And like, and part of the things they were trying to do for the next iteration was to really use her fans to help decide what she did. So does Lil Michaela go to Coachella, or does she go to Art Basel, or maybe both? And it's like the fans who were had NFTs that meant they were part of that community, that fan club. They could actually vote on what happened. And so that's another application of NFTs that's like completely out of the box. But I think it really provides an opportunity for fans to get closer to their artists and closer to the art. I thought it was fascinating to learn like that part, because who thought about user-generated like character development in that way, other than like some like the novels and stuff they kind of do back in the day. But this is like at scale, and so it's really, really exciting. And what's interesting, you talk about young kids, like this is native for them. Like they're just like, of course we can have this. Like I can build my own stuff in Roblox. Like I played games. I didn't build things in games. I was like Super Mario.
That's part of it. Like they're able to build and be a part. Like that's what's so great about Roblox, right? Like they can go and build something with these no-code platforms, and everybody's obsessed with AI these days too. But like there's a lot of cool use cases where you can, like, you're an artist. At the end of the day, you have to create cool things. Who cares if you use your hand or your speech or typing in an input, right? Like as long as the outcome comes out, it's cool.
Yeah, I love that.
And movies too.
Oh.
Yeah, so like I was talking to this guy who we brought on as a speaker for our event, and he's part of this company called Mogul, if anyone's heard about it.
Mogul?
Mogul, yeah. They've been using NFTs to crowdfund movie production.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like interviewing this guy, and I'm like, okay, so what kind of utility do I get by holding your NFT? And as he started to unpack how they thought about utility, it's like, you, as a holder, you can vote on who the main character is. You get to influence the plot. You get to like meet the cast, and that type of fan engagement, we've never had that before. Yeah. Right? And if in the arts, man, like whether it's music or, movies, like creating that deep connection to your fan base, man, that's crucial. Because those are people that are, putting food on the table for you. So
yeah.
I just think like, especially because we're at an equity crowdfunding, event, that's really what this is. It's not equity, but it's crowdfunding with NFTs, with DAOs, whatever you call it. It's like you said, like there's this next generation, these like Gen Zs or whatever, that they're gonna grow up with this being the standard.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah, interactivity. Yeah.
That's wild. 100%.
Yeah, Naval Ravikant. I don't know if you guys probably familiar. He's great, but he had a quote that really, I think I read it maybe a year ago. He was talking about that the ability for an artist who currently is like a photographer, an artist, whatever they are, like maybe a musician or a poet or something, they probably have to have another job they may not like or may not be part of their creative expression, just to be able to support their creative expression. And the use of NFTs and like really at scale, being able to connect with a global audience in a very like intimate way, and be able to engage that audience and help them basically fund more art that they like that you're providing. That's a paradigm shift kind of to what you're saying. It's like that now that artists can actually monetize their following and make $50,000 to $60,000 a year off their art instead of having to go work part-time somewhere to fund their art. And I think that's gonna like really create a blossoming effect for creative expression all over, because a lot of people are very creative but don't pursue it because they can't make money with it or can't support themselves with it. They don't want to commit the time for it. So it's pretty exciting, pretty interesting, of course. We're coming up on time, so I just want to give an opportunity for y'all to kind of share final statements. Maybe we can start with Diego.
Yeah, just in general, look, there's a lot of opportunity with this technology, but it's unless we get creators to start being able to use them and explore and experiment in a way that's where we have clear rules on what you can and cannot do, and with accessible tools, it's going to be really tough to get there. What happened to the industry this week is not a failure of blockchain or crypto with the FTX, to be more specific. It's just a failure of our leaders not providing clear rules and policing these companies, right? FTX, what happened to them was nothing to do with the premises of blockchain. It was simply abuse of consumer funds that we have seen in many, many cases across traditional finance.
So true. Yeah.
So we need more engagement from creators. We need more engagement from investors who are supporting these creators, and our leaders everywhere in the world to join the conversation and really start moving a little faster, because this industry is not that new. It's been around for 10 years. So
It's crazy to think about,
we got to
actually.
get going here in other areas in order so that we can keep evolving what we're trying to build here.
I love that. And when you mentioned like 4,000 folks at this conference, a lot of those folks must have been developers. That's like a really strong signal that there are people who are really committed to building in blockchain in this time, despite the market, despite what's going on. So that's really cool. Yeah, and I agree with you. Yeah, a lot of the stuff is the stigma, you know, despite the stigma, there's a lot of really exciting things happening.
Yeah, going off of that, I think this week a lot of trust was broken, right? And it's going to take time to rebuild, but there's not a better time to build than now. And I think we're obviously super bullish long term. And I think for us at Chapter One, we're just doubling down, supporting our founders, and making sure that we're there for them, whatever they need. But yeah, we're excited for the future, and especially on infrastructure. Attribution is a huge thing. Like, what if you could get paid for playing Gaga like those years ago? Like, that'd be crazy.
I'd be chilling right now.
we actually co-led a deal with Dragonfly with this company called Spindle, and they're building the first like attribution layer for Web3, which we're really excited about. So
Really?
coming, yes. But yeah, again, we're super bullish, and I'm very fortunate to work with super amazing founders and supporting them. So
That's awesome. Wait, attribution layer is being able to
what if you
attribute.
could track, attribution and monetization, what if you could track all the way down to the core layer of where an interaction started from where it went, and then monetize that funnel? So
I'm like somebody, I learned about this, I'm a trend hunter, I guess, a cool hunter. So I'm looking for cool stuff all the time, and I find something cool and I share it with my friends, and they all love it, and then that person blows
Yeah.
up. It's like,
Maybe
I can
you
get
could get
compensated
paid.
for that? That's awesome. Okay. And that's actually made me want to do it
Yeah.
more, right? So continue to find cool stuff and then build my following and then share it with them. That's really cool.
And fans could get paid for discovering artists early on too. Like, that's a huge
Love that.
thing. So.
Okay. That's really exciting for me.
That's great. I'm super excited, right? Like, I think that this is especially in my career, I've never seen an opportunity exist like what's happening right now, despite the chaos, right? Again, we have to look at the past to see the trends. And it's very clear that, like, this is why things happen, this is what happens. And then secondarily, I think, we look towards the future and not just, we need to get away, we talked about it earlier from
Hold on, I think we lost you. I'll say your mic.
branding things here. Hopefully you guys can.
So, is it coming through?
No, I don't think.
There we go. Okay,
All right.
cool. Sorry.
I think that like we need to get away too from using all these terms that are very exclusive to people that aren't crypto native. Even NFTs, right? Like NFTs are an incredible use case. We're launching a product using them. I'm telling everybody we're never calling them NFTs. Like, people shouldn't know that's going to turn people off. Leverage the technology. Don't build on things that are just speculative. And like, take real world use cases. Like, how does this really benefit people? For me, like, yes, we all have business interests, but what really excites me is like how we pave the way for the future and create new, fun, cool things. We're in this opportunity to like pave the way it's the new frontier, right? So like, it's that building that's so fun for me, and good things have always come when you focus on just focusing on building a great product and great projects. The money always comes, and I think like we need to get back to just focused on like, hey, how do we do, like, this is such a unique opportunity, like, let's go out and be great and pave the way and leverage this technology to do things we never could do before.
Awesome. Yeah, I completely agree. All right, we got 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Doing things we've never done before. And so I guess my closing point would maybe be like challenging that we need to make it too easy. I think if you are solving a 10x problem for somebody, if you're going to improve their life 10x, if you're going to totally change the course of how their day unfolds, and if you enable something truly uniquely new, they will move heaven and earth to get 100%. Through that, And so, like, for sure, make it possible and make it as easy as you can, but like, don't underestimate the power of motivation. And if people aren't motivated enough to overcome the barriers, they might not be motivated enough. You might not have your users. And the other thing I want to emphasize is, like, you three really touched on the power of this paradigm. Like, artists have access to distribution. The community can have a real say in it. That's a binding say that changes the course of how the community and the brand evolves. And that's made possible by like the lack of platform risk, the fact that there is true ownership and true identity, and people like really are codified participants in this, and there isn't middlemen. The lack of platform risk, the peer-to-peer interactions, and the existence of true ownership totally changes the game in so many ways, and it's really exciting. And like soft plug, that's totally what we built Flow for. We saw that stuff way back in 2017. The inklings of it were there, and that's exactly the world that we were designing this for, because it's it's feeling inevitable, and it's a paradigm shift, and you got to have the right tools for the job. So I'm really excited to see what
comes. Are going to go down as one of those OG products that like just shaped the way for this. So congrats for being part of it. It's awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
So cool. Yeah.
So my last comment would just be aimed towards creators, founders, builders, really, people that have a vision that they want to see manifest. The barrier to entry will not be this low again for a while for something this significant.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of fear, a lot of confusion about what it takes to actually build in this space. And what I found is it's not really as complicated as a lot of people think it is, but this is a creator's economy. You get rewarded for taking risks and actually building. So whether you're an artist that's thinking of launching a project as an NFT, or a founder that wants to build something in the space, I would just encourage people, anyone that's listening, that's on the fence about actually putting something out there in the ether to just do it.
Yeah, get it started.
So, yep.
Lennox, Lane, Ski, Maria, Diego, thank you all so much for your time up here. I know almost all of us flew in for this event, and thank you all for being here and for listening and being excited about blockchain with us. The future couldn't be brighter as far as I'm concerned, so thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. What a great panel. What a great panel. Let me bring back Caleb. Man, such a good panel to put together. Caleb has spent time putting this panel together for Equity Crowdfunding Week to close out the show. I want to ask you, why was this so important to you to have this conversation at Equity Crowdfunding, what it meant to Dapper Labs, and having these particular people on this panel?
Well, to be honest, it's an opportunity to bring some amazing people up here that I've had access to be honest. But and I think in the context of this, with a bunch of investors, people who are actually putting their money where the things that are happening next, I think it was so important to actually bring up blockchain, especially given all the stigma around it. People say they don't know about blockchain, but they know a lot about the negative stigma about it. But there's a lot of really exciting things that are happening, really innovative things, paradigm shifting things that are happening. And so I really was excited to bring that kind of information, that kind of excitement in front of this audience. So thank you for the opportunity, man. This
Absolutely,
is like really
absolutely.
cool.
Now, I'm curious, what do you think the effect on equity crowdfunding and blockchain and kind of pairing those two? We had companies like Securitize involved. What do you think that parity will be in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think I do a lot of sailing, and it's a collision course. Like they're both going the same speed, and they're holding the same bearing. It's like it's gonna have to intersect, and I think it's really exciting because as the blockchain technology develops and as more innovation happens on it, the equity crowdfunding piece is gonna like slide in really nicely. And then I think the most exciting thing for me about blockchain is the rails it provides for equity crowdfunding, the ability to scale it up really quickly. And so a lot more people can get involved, a lot more impact can be had, a lot more people can have access to financial tools and investments that are going to help bring them wealth. So I think it's really inevitable and really exciting.
Yeah, and one of the things that really particularly interests us into working with Dapper Labs is we put out an NFT wallet, right? If you don't know, for Equity Crowdfunding Week, we have an NFT wallet. You'll be able to have access to it, especially those individuals who are online, to kind of really pair it with equity crowdfunding, right? So every piece of branding that you see, if you go to our website, if you go to the Equity Crowdfunding Week website conference page, you'll be able to see these really cool assets. But you'll also be able to access those assets in the Dapper Labs partnership wallet as well.
Yeah.
So NFT wallet, check it out.
Yeah, so we have Dapper Wallet and Blotto Wallet, and so we'll share out the link for that, but basically you scan a QR code, it's going to walk you through the phone, you can create a wallet. It's going to be easy, I promise. Yeah. And then once you create that wallet, you can start collecting these different NFTs, get discounts with the providers, and all sorts of really cool things. So we talked about utility in the panel just now. That's what we're going to offer with this too. So
yeah, and we'll send out a really cool release. You'll be able to access a lot of these issuers and the things that they're offering, and some really cool promotions within the wallet from the companies that participated in Equity Crowdfunding Week. Thank you, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.